Danny, I just wanted to let you know that I truly, deeply love, fucking hate this movie. Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Wow. Wow. Yeah, we just got done watching it. I'm Nate Goddard. This is Episode 2 of my review. Just got done with my other one on Nicholas Sherrill. Or with Nicholas Sherrill, not on Nicholas Sherrill. You can check that out on my channel. My Phantom Menace review. My buddy Danny Mchenry here is here to do Attack of the Clones with me.
Super excited about that. Just finished watching it, nice and fresh in our heads.
Danny's a fellow Clemson person.
Yeah, more or less.
Not. Danny is a KSU owl, and he's a fellow Star Wars connoisseur, though.
More or less, yeah.
So, yeah. And then I'm back in my my house. We got this nice Star Wars trilogy poster. I always loved that. But that is the original trilogy. We're talking prequels right here, sadly, and it is ugly.
Because we have to go in order.
And it is ugly. Alright, so Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones stars Hayden Christensen, Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman, Samuel Jackson, and Christopher Lee.
Yeah.
All good actors, minus Hayden Christensen. We'll get to that. So we start off 10 years after the events of the Phantom Menace, and like Obi-Wan promised, he has begun and is training Anakin, like he promised to Qui-Gon, is training him to become a Jedi. And the chemistry of two guys that have been together for 10 years training one another is just not there.
Yeah.
Just the dialogue between the two is very weak from right off the start. So they start off they get to the planet of Coruscant, which is where the Jedi are located, and is also where Queen Amidala is. And they're like, she has had attacks on her, so they're there to protect her. And we get to the scene with the weird worm things.
Oh yeah, that was so pointless.
So the bounty hunter drops these like worms into her room. It's like drop a bomb, shoot some lasers at her.
They could have dropped anything to kill her, and they drop worms.
Yeah, they open up this little glass thing, open up a hole. It's like, what are they doing? And these little like worm slugs.
They could have thrown a smoke pellet, toxic gas,
and these little worms come out. Whatever. Moving on. They go, and then the worms crawl on her, and I guess they're poisonous. Anakin comes in and saves the day. Whatever, he did something.
I have to admit, though, he was ballsy jumping on her and slicing the worms right off her face. He could have easily killed her.
It was kind of cool. Yeah. When Anakin's in action in this movie, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But then again, a lot of it is like...
His action scenes are cool with the fluidity of it, but his dialogue is so bad.
But a lot of it is like animated Anakin anyway.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Anyway,
not even really
they get on this big hunt for the bounty hunter that like attacked, that was trying to kill the Senator Amidala now, because she's not the queen anymore. And they get to... They follow her in the speeders, and just a CGI disaster of a planet.
Yeah.
It's just so bad. It's
very long.
It
too.
looks
it could have been 3-4 minutes shorter and would have been a fine chase, but they just really lagged that on.
It could have been like a minute, 2 minutes in total, and it's just, you see just the backgrounds look so bad. You can tell, like, you can see the outline of the person standing, and it's obviously just like green screen. It's so bad, and they finally they corner the person who is the bounty hunter who sent the little slug things in Senator Amidala's room, and he is like, and then they corner her in a bar, and then we get like one of the few moments where you're like, you get a little bit of charisma out of a character, and what is it that happens? He goes, he comes up to him and he goes, this guy like drug dealer, like alien drug dealer kind of guy. He goes, you want to buy some death sticks? And then Obi-Wan goes, you don't want to sell me death sticks. And he's like using the Force. And then the guy's like, I don't want to sell you death sticks. He's like, you want to go home and rethink your life? And the guy goes, I want to go home and rethink my life. And he walks away. It was so funny. It was actually like a really funny moment.
It was good comical relief.
Yeah, it was like
the comical reliefs in this movie are very random. Some pay off, some don't.
I think most don't pay off.
Yeah.
It's mostly Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Because Ewan McGregor, if you've seen other movies he's in, he's very charismatic.
Yeah.
He's actually a really good singer.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact on Ewan McGregor. Lando Calrissian's friend
Yeah.
from Empire Strikes Back with the weird head thing.
Mm-hmm.
What his name is Wedge. I think a lot of people don't know his name.
I didn't know that.
His name is Wedge. He is Ewan McGregor's uncle.
In real life or
in
just?
real life.
Oh, okay. Did not know.
So
that.
yeah. So if nothing else, you learned something from this movie.
I guess.
Anyway, so they corner the bounty hunter, and they catch her. She's about to kill. She's trying to shoot Obi-Wan. Of course, Obi-Wan's a Jedi.
Right.
Cuts her hand off, takes her outside, and they're like, "Who are you working for?"
And as soon as that happens,
And she's like, she says,
right in the fucking neck.
"It was a bounty hunter call,"
Yeah.
and then it hits her in the neck, and she, for whatever reason, it didn't advance the plot at all, but she was a changeling.
Yeah,
is
she
what they called
formed
her.
back into her little alien.
And she
self.
turned like into a weird alien, and then she died. And
Then they look back, and then
yeah, and
Jango Fett flies
Jango
away.
Fett flies away. So the whole thing is, or like for the whole first, basically 2 acts of the movie, we're trying to find out about this assassination
Right.
attempt. But actually, we're going through the most forced romance in the history of cinema. So after this, like
he goes and tries to find
Obi-Wan.
What's the diner place that he goes to?
Obi-Wan goes to Dax's diner and tries, and Dax is very knowledgeable CGI mess of a character.
He's got wigs.
And he knows a lot of stuff, and he shows it to him, and he knows where it's from, and he says, go to this planet called Camino. Anyway, we'll get to that. Anakin gets sent on the mission. They want Padme to leave Coruscant because it's too dangerous.
Right.
So Anakin gets sent on a mission to protect Padme.
Yeah, it's a new mission. He's finally Yoda. Said he could do it. Right?
Yeah, he like allows him to go on his first mission.
Yeah.
And it's obviously just a terrible setup for a terrible romance.
Mm-hmm.
And they go off to Queen Amidala's home planet of Naboo.
Right.
And General Kenobi, or not General Kenobi, Obi-Wan Kenobi is given the mission of trying to find out where this bounty hunter came from. So the bounty hunter part, Obi-Wan trying to find him, is really interesting. Anakin's romance with Padme
It's offset. It is so bad.
the worst thing ever. And we get about 5 minutes to like 30 seconds.
It wasn't balanced.
Yeah, it was really bad. You were like, let me see more of this Camino. No, this awkward dialogue between Padme and Anakin. And there's just, so they basically, there's scenes, like, they're almost all the same. There's scenes where they have like a picnic. They go, like, they're looking at the scenery. They're sitting by the fire together. It's all just terrible dialogue.
And at first she's really hesitant towards it and doesn't want to accept it for what it is.
It kind of feels like.
And he's just so obsessive over it.
It kind of feels like as an actress, she's still kind of hesitant towards it because he's just so creepy.
Yeah, his eyes and just everything he does.
Every time he turns around, he's like,
Ugh.
he looks at him like this, and it's so weird. And
not to mention he's monotone as shit with everything he says.
So the part we're talking about is actually like a huge, like it's actually like it sounds like it would be like 10 minutes. It's like 40 minutes of the movie.
Yep.
It's really long, and it just drags on. So we get to Camino, and that stuff starts rolling. We find out that a old Jedi had ordered a clone army to be made for a future
at this hidden planet, apparently, according to the archives.
Yeah, at this planet called Camino, where they can make clones off of a person. So, whatever, it was a little bit forced, but they get it going. And the clone that there's like millions of them, and they're cloning. They're cloning the one guy. The one guy they're cloning is Jango Fett, father, kinda, of Boba Fett. One of the more beloved characters of. Does he make an appearance? Right there, boom.
Yep.
Boba Fett, right there. So he's he's not exactly his father. We find out that Boba Fett is actually a clone himself. Mm-hmm. So Jango is.
He's like a son, but
he calls him his dad, but he's actually a clone of Jango, and it's weird how that happened. Mm-hmm. But I mean, we didn't really need it. I thought what was cool about Boba Fett was kind of like the mystery behind him.
Yeah.
And then we don't know.
Don't have a mystery.
And he's just a clone.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. That was kind of lame. Whatever. Moving on. So they have a little bit of a skirmish. Obi-Wan is actually trying to stop Jango Fett from leaving the planet of Camino, and they have a little skirmish. And this little fight it's all right. It's kind of cool.
One of the better moments of the movie, in my opinion.
It's still like really cutty, like a lot of these scenes are.
It still wasn't like amazing.
Yeah, it's just they just didn't quite do it right.
Anything with Obi-Wan, I thought was the better part of the movie.
Oh yeah, Obi-Wan was like a shining shining part of this movie. Too bad he loses a lot of screen time.
I think it's just because I loathe the Anakin scenes.
Finally, Anakin, after he's poting, there was a point where I started calling him Wanakin in this movie because wham, 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 he just cried the whole time, just bitching about everything. He does this weird thing a lot where like he gets mad and he's like such a bad actor that he can't like display it, so he just goes. And he literally, you can see him do it.
He's like shrugging the whole time.
He's like trying to be like he's trembling, but he like
it's like he's like crying, but
it's so bad. Hayden Christensen is not a good actor. Even as a child actor, he was really bad, and George Lucas really kind of pushed it.
I don't know.
I don't know. He was so wooden, and all of the scenes, like, and then there's that famous scene of he's like, I hate sand. It's coarse and rough. And it gets everywhere.
Yep.
And you're everything that's soft and sweet. And it's just like, who wrote this?
The movie is full of that.
Like, this is so bad.
If you haven't seen it,
and it really was all George Lucas.
Yep.
He wouldn't let anybody edit his work. He said that I know like where this movie's going. That's what happened in the first one. And he wouldn't take answers from anybody, and it just was a disaster.
Yep.
Finally, we get to where Anakin's having visions, and he realizes that his mother, Shmi, that we see in the first movie, has been is in some kind of deep pain.
Mm-hmm.
So he disobeys Jedi order to stay with Padme on Naboo, and he goes to his old home planet of Tatooine, of which he hasn't been home in 10 years. Finds out that his mother was sold and married by a guy named Lars, Lars' son is actually Uncle Owen from A New Hope.
Spoiler. Just kidding.
That's kind of it's kind of a spoiler. Yeah, I guess so.
I feel like you'd have to see the originals before.
Joel Edgerton gets like zero face time in this movie. He's probably the best actor in the movie. We realized that today. We were like, that's Joel Edgerton. Yeah. Anyway, Joel Edgerton's Uncle Owen. It's pretty cool. And so the Tusken Raiders took Anakin's mom. Mm-hmm. And he goes to their village and finds her. And he cuts a hole in their little hut, and he goes inside, and she's so happy to see him. She's like, I can go in peace now, is kind of what she said.
That's what she said, and then just
it's kind of weird, and then she dies. And Anakin...
Like she was waiting for him, and then just finally died.
You could have had this really dark, like, future Darth Vader moment where they zoom in on his face, and Anakin's doing the shoulder thing again, and you're like, damn it!
Yeah.
Like, it could have been, like, the plot was actually kind of working.
It had potential, but they didn't execute it very well.
And you know what killed him there, too, was the PG rating.
Yeah.
He pops out of this thing, he takes, like, two guys' heads off, and then he kind of gets, like, one more guy, and then they cut away.
Yeah,
like a deep moment. All they showed. You remember how later on he says, I killed them all. I killed the women and the children.
Like, that's a really important scene, too, because the moment his mom dies, that's the first glimpse you see of him becoming...
And a lot of the reason he becomes what he really is, he wants more power to stop people from dying.
And that's all they really showed of it.
Yeah, and if they would have showed how mad he was, showed him maybe this would be dark, but killing, like, a child Tusken Raider, or something like that.
Or something truly evil. That would have
been dark. Like, nothing about this kid screams Darth Vader to you. Yeah. And that just bothers me the whole time. So anyway... He wipes out the village, and then he takes Shmi back to the Lars house.
Yep.
The future Skywalker ranch, and they bury her and everything. And then he finds out that Obi-Wan has been captured by the Geonosians. Obi-Wan follows Jango Fett to Geonosis, and via some cool maneuvers. It was actually a pretty cool chase scene. There's this chase scene between Jango Fett trying to catch Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan ends up getting away. It's a really cool scene actually, because it's a cool space scene. They don't use too much green screen, and it works pretty well. And they get to the planet, and Obi-Wan eventually gets captured on this planet, and he finds Count Dooku there. Count Dooku, the former Jedi, who was
he in charge of all those people, or what was he doing on that planet in the first place?
Yeah, he was the Sith representative kind of, and they were giving him the army and stuff.
Okay.
So they let Dooku kind of become in charge there, and he realizes that so Count Dooku is actually Qui-Gon Jinn, who was Obi-Wan's master. Christopher Lee's character Count Dooku was Qui-Gon Jinn's master, and
Yeah,
now
it's
we
all
find out
kind of
that
tied together.
well, we find out now that he's a Sith.
Yeah.
So he's a bad guy now, and he's creating an army on Geonosis.
Mm-hmm.
So it leads up to Anakin and Padme basically try and go save Obi-Wan in a very weird plot point that ends up that none of them, they don't really save shit. They kind of just
didn't save anything. They just got captured with Obi.
And the whole plot doesn't like make a whole lot of sense because they just get captured, and the whole reason they go is because Padme goes, they'll never reach there in time.
Yeah.
They'll never get there in time. Like, we have to go. And it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it's just like a lot. Me and Nicholas talk about this a lot in the first one. You just like the transitions between you're on this water planet, now you're on this desert planet, now you're here, now you're in Geonosis, now, and it's just the transitions are never like fluid. Like you feel like you
they don't
see,
show
like
too much traveling.
There's just
like
a lot of
planet,
like shifts, and like you're not given a lot of reason for how you're going there. So anyway, they get to Geonosis. They're all captured. Count Dooku, in typical villain fashion, reveals his entire villainous plan.
Yeah.
And they all get tied to like pillars and like.
What looks like a Roman Colosseum building. Yeah. It's like a dirt. Yeah, that was
a cool scene. Yeah. And it was a cool setup. And they each get like a weird creature that's supposed to come and kill them.
Kind of special.
Yeah, and they kind of escape for a little bit, and then finally. Like, how far are we into this movie before?
Solid hour 45.
Yeah, an hour 45. We finally get something worth watching, and it's that the clone army that Obi-Wan had found out about earlier. They're gonna use it to fight the Geonosians and mainly the the Viceroy's battle droids.
Yeah.
So they come down and they save Obi-Wan, Padme, and Anakin. But let me get back to this real quick. Before they go out into the Geonosians like weird Colosseum, they like come out and they're like riding this weird thing, and they come out and they have this like most awkward like love scene where they're standing like how me and Danny are, and they look at each other, and Padme's like, I don't know, she's like, I love you.
It's the most awkward scene.
And everybody's just like, what? Like, and then he goes, I thought we had chosen not to love. And he's just still like, their faces are like this. They're like the way they talk is just like so wooden. And then like the worst line for how bad Hayden Christensen is in this movie. Natalie Portman drops the worst line in the movie. She, like I said in the beginning of the movie, she says, I truly, deeply love you. And you're just like, no, you don't. You're like, what? What?
I know, you told him to his face that you felt uncomfortable around him earlier in the movie.
Yeah, like,
now you truly
he was so creepy. Like, what? Like, oh my god, it was so bad. Anyway, a little jump forward. The Master Yoda brings the clones, and then they come in, and then it all kind of leads up to like they get on the ship and they're trying to follow Count Dooku.
Right.
Because he's trying to get away with some master plans, which ends up being the Death Star plans.
Yep. They showed a little glimpse of it too.
It was a little bit of a lead in. He has like a little hologram of it, and you're like, okay, that leads in.
Some plans to it.
So we get to a fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Count Dooku. And in typical stupid Anakin fashion,
he just runs
they're like,
straight at him.
like Obi-Wan's like, all right, I'll take him slow, and he goes, no, I'll take him now. And he runs up to him, and he literally just gets his ass. He just throws him aside like a bumblebee.
Yeah.
Just go away.
Which is how you know he's still Padawan.
Yeah.
He didn't think it through at all.
It's like you just know he's a bitch.
Yeah,
He's a bitch. It is annoying just how stupid he is in this movie. Because Darth Vader, on top of being evil, he's like calculated.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? He's a decision maker. And you don't see any of that in Anakin in the prequels. He's just an idiot. He's like a little naive kid. And it's just annoying. Like, you kind of see he's powerful, but anyway, so Obi-Wan and Anakin both get their asses kicked on an individual basis.
Yeah.
There's a moment where Anakin kind of saves Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
When he's like about to kill him,
and
Anakin gets off his ass and kind of does something cool. And anyway, but they both get their asses kicked, and Count Dooku kind of pushes them aside, and they end up going like he pushes them aside, and out pops Master Yoda.
Yep.
That was, I don't know. A lot of people think it's so over the top. I thought it was entertaining. Mm-hmm. It was something that showed something.
Was that before or after the?
Yeah, Anakin gets his arm cut off.
Yeah.
by the
by
way.
Dooku.
You cut his arm off, and you're kind of like, you kind of deserve it. I don't care. You're an ass. You're a
You're
real
stupid.
ass.
You should have your head cut off.
You are a real ass. I don't care for your character at all. So he gets his arm cut off, and pushes him aside. Yoda pops out, and like the dialogue between him and Yoda is like kind of weird. But
the action was cool.
And then Dooku comes out and he says, "Obviously, our mastership of the Force won't be the deciding factor, but our skills with the
he was
lightsaber."
deflecting all of his Force techniques.
But our skills with the lightsaber. Like, okay, and basically you have Christopher Lee, who actually, rest in peace, he actually died a couple of months ago. Actually more than that, like 4 or 5 months ago. He was still old at this point. And this was
he was
15 years ago.
old as shit.
And so he's computer generated at a lot of
the
they zoom in on his face. So he's computer generated, and Yoda's computer generated at this point too. They're not using the puppet Yoda anymore. So there's some points where it kind of just looks like this. Yoda's actually very agile, and he's moving around like this, and you're just seeing like a black figure, and it's just a lot of like, really, you see like a lightsaber moving, but everything else is, I don't know. It's a cool fight to see Yoda in his prime. Yeah. Because everybody talks about how powerful he is.
But you never see him, because he's always on a cane, so you never really get to see his true power.
I kind of always figured he was just out of it.
Yeah.
He was just kind of
like way past his prime.
Yeah, he was just kind of like the teacher, but it was cool to see he could still kick some ass. So I think it didn't save the movie. It didn't redeem the movie. Or
it was one of the cooler parts of the movie.
Yeah, it was cool to see something about Yoda, to see that he was still very powerful. Because
at that point, he'd always just all been taught. Like
like
we obviously knew in the older movies.
And people talk about him too. They're always like, your swordsmanship master, like Master Yoda. And you're just like, oh, okay. Well, he must be the top dog at some point. But you get to see him in action a little bit. And it ends in like the lamest way possible. And Count Dooku like knocks this thing over, and it's gonna fall on, pass out Obi-Wan and Anakin, and they're just like, oh shit! And then Yoda has to like use the Force to stop the big pillar from falling on them, and Count Dooku
runs away,
and you're just like, all right.
And that's that.
Well, we got our like 2 minutes of fun, and then like the scenes with like the mass quantities of Jedi. Oops, I said it.
You did it, not me.
I did it.
Ooh.
The Jedi. I was gonna say Jedi standing or something. The Jedi standing around and it was cool, but it was too much.
Yeah. A lot of them died.
We didn't get to see any Jedi hardly in this whole movie.
Yeah.
And then
all of a sudden there's like 20 of them.
Yeah, and then there's just a pit full of them, and you just see their lightsabers flying around, and it's. Oh god, it's just a bit much. And then the movie ends kind of abruptly. Right. And they kind of try to make it sad because about half the Jedi die.
Yeah. Come out but it wasn't any of the important Jedi. It was like the people we don't know.
No main characters, mind you.
Not at all.
But they come out, and there's a part at the end where Yoda kind of tries. He's like, no victory, Master Obi-Wan. Yeah. But he's like, oh, we actually, it wasn't a victory, like a lot of people died, and we're like, oh, we're supposed to care, okay. And then there's kind of this weird, like, march scene where, like, the clones, in very video game-like fashion, are walking onto a ship, and they're like a lot of clones. And they're kind of talking about, like, good thing we had them and shit, and so, oh god, and then Anakin and Padme get married.
Very last scene.
And then you just get
get married under a tree, overlooking the sea.
Almost every scene with Anakin and Padme can be narrated by what?
Yeah, like what?
Like what? And then, oh god, like it's like why is it here? And then oh god, it's so bad. And then they get married. And Anakin has.
Was there any dialogue in the wedding scene, or was it just all like visual?
That might have been the best part of it.
Yeah, honestly.
Maybe that was the way to go.
Yeah.
I don't know. So, and it just kind of ends. That's the end of it. We don't actually get to see any more of the actual Clone Wars in Episode 3. You get the clones are fighting. That's not exactly the Clone Wars. And just, that's another thing I feel like the prequels kind of, it didn't have, like, the storyline was kind of weird. We went from Episode 1 to 2 was 10 years apart. Right. You had to find Anakin, and then...
I know it's called Attack of the Clones, but I feel like the clones attacking wasn't even the main part of the story. It was more like a romance movie almost.
It really was.
With like a side of a side of Jango Fett.
Yeah. In conclusion, a lot of this movie, you see that George Lucas, he wrote the movie on top of directing all the scenes and stuff, and a lot of the points where like they're having their romance, they don't actually like talk like normal people would
Not
talk
at
in a
all. Not
romance,
at all.
and they almost say they almost say their emotions.
Yeah.
They're like, Anakin, like, I'm deeply in love with you,
Yeah.
and it's just always.
But it's not showing love at all.
Yeah, it's not.
Just,
it doesn't.
It's all the same emotion
It's trying
sounding.
to tell you, but you don't believe
Yeah,
it.
not at all.
And it's just bad. I don't know. Overall, I mean, Hayden Christensen coming in was kind of supposed to save the day after the terrible Kid Anakin.
It didn't work.
It was bad. He might have been worse. And I mean,
yeah, because he's an adult. Like, he should have at least a little bit better acting ability.
And then, but the thing was, Natalie Portman, who has been proven to be a good actress, had some.
But I feel like that's mainly because of
George
Lucas, the director. He didn't give her anything to work with. She could have probably executed better, but she didn't have.
There's movies you can see movies that Hayden Christensen's in that but he's like bad. Like, he's bad in all the movies. Like, it's not like it was just this movie. He actually is like a really bad actor. Some people try to defend him with George Lucas. He's actually a really bad actor. Anyway, in conclusion, I'm gonna ask for your rating out of 10. I think I gave The Phantom Menace, I think, a 5.5 out of 10.
You gave him that. Okay. You gave that.
I'm gonna bump this up. I'm gonna give Star Wars Attack of the Clones a 6 out of 10.
Yeah.
What do you?
I would say around 6. I was gonna say 5, but I mean,
say 5.
I would put the first one lower.
Some redeeming qualities with
I would put a 6.
Yoda and
it had some decent. Yeah, it had a little bit of character development.
6 out of 10.
Yeah, I would put a 6.
Okay. Anyway, we're doing this all to lead up into The Force Awakens. Are you excited for it?
Yes, I think everyone is.
I think it's gonna save it. I think it's gonna be awesome.
It will. It will.
What do you think?
It will for sure.
Force Awakens better than the prequels, probably.
Oh yeah.
The bar's not high there.
No.
You think?
I don't know. I haven't seen enough to know if it's better than the original trilogy, but
those
I mean,
trailers.
it definitely have better CGI and special effects, so that won't hurt it at all.
Yeah.
So I mean.
And a lot of what J.J. Abrams says he's going to to practical effects.
Right.
He's not just going to give you.
I'm okay with that.
CGI scenes where there's like one person. He's obviously just on a green screen.
Yeah.
So.
That's what makes movies good, though.
I think we're like 70 days away from it.
Dude, it's close. It's getting there.
It's creeping up. Alrighty.
Down.
Well, I am Nate Goddard. Tune in. Me and my friend Tucker Knight will be uploading our video for Revenge of the Sith, which is by far my favorite prequel. Is it your favorite prequel?
Yeah.
I consider that one actually like watchable. Like,
it is. I'm never gonna watch this again, probably.
Yeah. I made a vow after I watched The Phantom Menace with Nicholas, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch this again.
I know the plot line.
Yeah, I don't need to watch this ever again.
No, you don't.
And I was just so I'm done with it. I might watch this one again, preferably not.
Maybe if you need to.
Or
if it's like on VH or like on TV or something.
One good thing came out of this movie. They made a good Star Wars Clone Wars video game.
They did.
And it was awesome. It was like based on the ships and stuff, and it was really cool. Anyway, Danny, thank you for doing this review with me. I had a lot of fun doing it. Watch out for my Revenge of the Sith review. Give us a comment. Let us know how we did. And thanks for watching.